Good evening. Welcome to early work session of the Highland Village City Council. Today is Tuesday, October the 10th. Meeting is called to order at 6 p.m. Let the record show all council members are present. Item number 1 on the agenda is review and discussion of proposed mobility ordinance. Chief Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So, last discussion, we were a little hopeful, more hopeful to get it done a little sooner. Many factors, vacations, people here, committee members, or working group members not here. But to be quite honest about it, I'm actually a little pleased that it got drug out a little bit longer because there were some discussions in the community, people throwing things out on different means of communication, for, against, and sort of got to glean some of that information to incorporate if we could into the final right or the draft of it also. So, I've only have been in contact with one citizen, both verbally here in the lobby once and then through emails, who was not real pleased with us moving in this direction. So I want to set the stages for why we're at this level, all of the work time that went into it, all the people who put effort into it. And my comments ultimately with this is it's happening already. It's been happening. And I think we got involved with this whole process because of some serious incidents that happened, primarily related to injuries, head injuries, on those things and whatnot. So with that being said, it was happening. Instead of saying, no, we can't do this, we chose the other route to say, how can we make it safer and better for our people? And it's in move in that direction. So we did. Reminder that we put pretty much, or quite a few people on that working group to discuss it. One council member, Mr. Kicksmiller, was there also. He was at all of them except for this last one, which was really a discussion on Kevin's suggested changes that we accepted all of them actually. And the one that you saw in your packets, by the way. So you didn't see Kevin's rewrite versions. I don't know if you've ever been privy to any of that information. I just bring it for illustrative purposes, okay? But it's down to a 3-pager, just about. Okay, is where it was at. Here's Kevin's rewrite stuff, okay?
Now, some of that's the margins with the
Yes,
comments.
it is with comments, but the committee went through all of those meticulously last week before this meeting to ensure that we looked at all those comments, addressed them, and if we had any other questions, we sent them back to him.
I wish. No, and again, one thing I did do to make, in an effort of doing my review of what the committee produced for purposes of developing the draft was to, of course, as I've discussed and Chief and I've discussed and I've shared with y'all before, I'm not real big on putting things that are policy related but aren't intended to be, there are comments that are kind of, we wish you would do kind of things in an ordinance, because ordinances are intended to be something that you, if you had to, take to municipal court, file a complaint, do an ordinance. If it's not enforceable, it really shouldn't be in there. A couple of things I did suggest though is that when I made a specific provision that talks about developing, the course that the chief, that the committee came up with, and did put a definition in the ordinance, proposed definition that kind of outlines at least the minimum curriculum subject matters. So that they would cover, so some of those things that were kind of the suggestions that the committee came up with that needed to be done would be the types of things that could actually go into that training course as part of this is how we'd like to do. That was kind of how the direction I went. Yeah. The other thing I did was go through and try to explain for the committee as they were looking at it why I made certain changes or deletions or removed certain items or redefined certain things. And so I didn't just do it without an effort of giving the committee back my thought process and actually coming up with the draft based on what they recommended.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. That was the purpose really to say there was a lot of effort that went into this from the front end and then on the back end also to put something out there that has a lot of these pillars, as I call them, what we discussed as a working group to ensure we're put into it and followed through with. And then the last one, of course, the ability to maintain versatility for future needs is still in there, that we can always bring something back if we have to. And that's where we ended up as a working group. So I think we met all of those objectives. Along the things that didn't get included in the ordinance, I didn't say with the recommendations, so to speak, from the really neat things, like safety equipment, I have to say, to say, hey, we really would like to see you wear some knee pads and things like that. We didn't put that in there, okay, because that'll be addressed in the safety course for recommended items. Not in the ordinance, we didn't address signage on the trails because that was, where's Phil at? Phil, we talked about that.
He's at a conference.
Conference, okay, so he knows that's coming. The striping we addressed, that didn't make it into the ordinance. All these things that make it in there, but then I wanted to stress also, we don't put in there that we're gonna be using Highland policing model on the enforcement and education on the trails. But those were all part of our discussions behind closed doors and in front of council in our work sessions. We did do one survey with the citizens. You can see the numbers that were driven here, primarily related to helmets and safety. Just to say there was that input, and I think of anybody who talked to me on the side as a police chief in casual conversations, I think it was like, you're gonna make them wear helmets, right? I heard that so many times, so that's part of it. So, if you had a chance to, hopefully you had a chance to review that. This is your time now. If there's anything else that needs to be discussed, added, or pulled, you really need your input, because we're gonna hammer this thing down and bring it to next council meeting for a first read.
So you, in the beginning, said that you wanted to make sure it was palatable to the community. Other than the survey, what input did you gather, or have you gotten any feedback?
Needed some controls, okay, in place, but the negativity, again, the opposition was just one person. It was just, no, I don't think you should allow these on the trails because they're gonna run us over and.
Yeah, I think I probably read that one too.
Yeah, probably.
Because that was about the only one.
They were encouraged, everybody was encouraged to come to meetings and have the input or tell us in writing where it was at. And lack of it, I think everybody, because of the lack of incidents, and we've seen an increase in some in behavior, in good behavior. There's still some not so good behavior or unlearned behavior, let's say that, practices that they just aren't aware of. We just haven't had those bad incidents since then, so.
And I think after those few, I think most of the citizenry really woke up and had a conversation, honestly. I think that's what happened. In what I read, if they're the first incursion require them to go to training, and then we'll get their fine back. And the second one, they're charged it. What is, and I may have missed it, what is in there that's going to suggest or require them to do training prior or once we roll this out? I know you're going to try to put on training program. Is there anything?
We're gonna hit the schools, number one, SROs, because they're in the schools. That was addressed and then, wasn't put in the ordinance. And then we'll offer that class, we'll have to offer that class for violators. So we'll encourage people to attend the course outside of, we'll hit the majority of our people at a young age for four schools are gonna be covered right off the bat. So we'll have a lot more educated people. When I say educated, they've been exposed to the training course, and or behavior will be influenced by that.
We're not going to do it. There's nothing we can really do to force them to go to a training program in the first place.
To keep track of, I think there's 2,200 kids in our schools alone to try to track that would be.
So you're going to do similar to what you did the bike rodeo and encourage
Yes.
the kids to get involved on a weekend or something.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
And then the summer month, or the kickoff of the summer, will probably have also, we'll probably stack some violators.
Sure.
Want to inconvenience them at some point in time
Yeah.
You know, on a Saturday or first week of when they're out of school, that they gotta go to this thing, so.
I think to get to the point of having to make them make somebody get any kind of training, we'd almost have to get to the point of requiring permits to even operate them, kind of like you do driver's licenses. So, and if we're, you know, and I don't think we felt any sense that that was the direction the council or anybody wanted to go, was requiring permits, you know, for these. So I think we kind of treat it kind of like driving safety course. You can take a driver safety course anytime you want to, and if you want, you know, want to take advantage of your insurance, you know, deductibles on, you know, or reductions as a result of that, you know, but the, you know, the driver safety course, but the safety course has to be done if you want that first fine dismissed or refunded. We set it up, you know, originally it was just set up to go to the course where the draft had come out from the committee. I changed that so it became a refundable fine as opposed to going to safety course to get it excused, in part because I just, my thought process was you're more likely to get people to come in if you've already got their money and they want it back, to come in and do the course and get it back, as opposed to us having to track them down later if they never, if they go sign up and then never actually come in, then we gotta go track them down and get the fine. And that's administratively a much bigger pain than going the other way around.
And the last question I had was, sorry, I didn't print it out, but it's on page 7, section 20.07.003, paragraph C. What caught my eye is it says other than skateboard. And I don't remember the context it's in, so if you've got it, if not, you can send me an email
Operate a
later.
micromobility device other than a skateboard on a public way or public property at nighttime, unless such micromobility device is equipped as required by Texas Transportation Code 551.0104B.
So I
It's just,
assume,
and that's a non-motorized, totally foot-propelled skateboard.
And that only applies at nighttime. And section C only applies to nighttime use. It calls out, it specifically mentions nighttime.
it only calls out that one item.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm trying to understand the context of why that was pulled out only.
Well, you don't normally see people with blinkers on their foot pedal, non-motorized skateboards. That's,
Yeah, so the idea,
yeah.
in that particular segment, then, it is more about illumination
Yeah.
for
That's right.
riders on mobility devices.
Right.
Is that what I'm getting?
That's correct. More the need to make sure you've got. And
So essentially it
there's
doesn't apply.
Yeah, and there's existing provision in the transportation code that deal with bicycles and other types of slow moving vehicles operating at night as well, that require, that make that prohibition after dusk and before dawn, if they don't have the proper illumination, reflectors. And so that was just consistent with those state law provisions, what we were trying to do.
So section B says, it talks about operating a micromobility device in violations of the provisions of the Texas Transportation Code, chapter 551. Chapter C, applicable to operation of vehicles defined in this article as micro. Is that chapter 551, does that have to do with like mopeds and things like that? Is that what we're talking about?
I have to pull
Motorized?
top of my head, I don't remember which one is specifically, but I'm gonna try to rewrite anything from there, but give you a reference so that
Right.
we could, you know, look it back up quick enough on the road.
You have to have a license for
Bicycle,
like moped,
bicycle.
motorcycle.
bicycles, mopeds, golf carts, and other low-powered vehicles.
Okay.
That's what,
In some of those cases, you have to have a motorcycle rider's license, right?
Depending on CCs and on a moped, yes.
Okay.
Which we're not allowing mopeds on the trails. They're
Right. Okay.
with gas powered, they're not allowed, so.
Is Marcus or the ninth grade center included in the school training courses?
Not at ours, Marcus is in Flowermont, so.
No, right, but there's Highland Village students there, so that's why I was asking. I was hoping it wasn't, and that is perfect.
we have a significant number of families that homeschool, pod school, and go to charter school. So will there be a course available for them on a weekend?
Yeah, when we start the program up, that program will be offered initially to try and encourage people. We want to hit the schools first, so we have them in school,
yes.
okay? Because that's the biggest
Absolutely.
bang for our buck.
Absolutely.
And then as we move through that gaining compliance process, the violators will have to set up training for them. So we'll encourage anybody who's exposed to it to come to the training.
Do our neighboring city, sorry, do our neighboring cities have a micro-mobility ordinance?
Not to my knowledge, if they're working on one, either haven't heard of it.
Flower Mound, no.
So we're gonna be the first?
I think so, but scouring across the countryside, you know, the closest we found for any of this stuff was out in California. And we stole a little bit of their stuff out of there, but it's all new, uncharted ground, so to speak, so.
A lot of them, where you saw any ordinances was around the Lime, scooters. You know, how to operate those as a business in the cities. And we try to stay away from that because that's a totally different
Right,
law.
Austin, that's right, one night I did review was Austin, but it was primarily all because they were being so abused in different ways, being left on the sidewalks, not put
Oh, yes.
back. So it became more of a nuisance than anything else, so. Sir?
Is there a negative incentive to not doing the training and waiting till you get a violation?
It's
So
only
then you
about
can do it?
positivity, sir.
Well, I'm just gaming the system here.
Uh,
Are they allowed to do it twice within a year to forego their fine? If they've already done it at school, but they get a violation, can they do it again to get that first violation back? Or the fact that they did it ahead of time prior to the violation, they're stuck
Like
paying?
defensive driving.
I don't think we addressed if you did it in the school, let's say our program in theory was, which is, we're trying to do it in the schools, they go through it all preemptive strike, so to speak. And then they commit a violation, they're gonna get,
You don't get credit for the class.
no, you don't.
Because you obviously, you took the
follow
class and you
rules.
didn't follow the
You
rules
didn't
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're holding them captive audience in school time anyway, that they're getting credit for through the schools.
Yeah, driving safety course, if you take it voluntarily and then have a traffic offense, you try to get your ticket dismissed. You can't use the one you voluntarily took.
No, I get it, but then I'm not gonna take it and I'm just gonna wait until you nab me and I can get them to write off that fine.
Well, in
I'm
school,
just,
school, you're
I'm
probably.
just trying to game the system because that's what we're gonna do, so I'm just
If
trying to.
you're in school though, you can't.
Yeah, they're not gonna, they can't game that one.
Schools, we've got this full
Going that way.
cooperation from the school to, take that time, because they don't want their kids hurt either.
I'm just looking for rules.
Are we doing it at all four schools?
Yes.
Did we do any type of analysis on how many violators there could be, just based on looking and watching kids or taking
How many
note
people
of
in here
kids
have
that?
driver's licenses? How many people in here have driver's licenses?
I don't know, I'm serious, I mean,
I'm too. How many people have licenses and how many people in here have violated some traffic law?
well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is how much effort is this gonna take from our current police force?
Initially, it will take some effort, no doubt, okay? Primarily bulk, if I drew this out on a board, the bulk of it's on the SROs initially to hit the schools and do it and get their cooperation in the schools. Once we are pretty sure that we've accomplished that goal, then for the follow-up, then we're gonna take our folks out to the trails and have operations set up just to monitor and check, verify our process that it's working. Probably have 2 of those sessions, evaluate where we're at to see if the numbers of people who drop each one of those times. And we're gonna, it's no different than our enforcement times of the year out at the shops. When school's out, you're gonna see more of my people out there on Thanksgiving weekend, Christmas week, spring break, because we know that the bulk of the people are out there. So we have our people out there at the right times to bring it down. And the other driving factor for that too, Sean, would be citizens' complaints. So if we have a section of where it's just, what we're saying is we're trying really diligently to project, train etiquette on the trail, not only safety, but etiquette. so that we minimize those things and people share that responsibility and share those trails, is you complain to us, I'm gonna do the same thing that we do for traffic enforcement on the roads. We're gonna set an operation in motion to try to be there at that point in time to curtail that activity. Hopefully, the goal, there's the one gentleman who's opposed to it, says, it sounds, he didn't use positivity, he liked some other word about it. Enthusiasm on it and enlightened whatever another, but he says he wasn't real hopeful. And I said, well, I'm going to be the opposite, say this is the way we do business. And absent of it, we're going to try our best to do it, so.
It also arms the parents. It gives the parents, hey, look, let's do this. It gives the parents kind of a backstop, like, okay, we're gonna do this, so you're not only teaching the kids, but when the kid, I mean, if the parents are paying attention, but it also puts another tool in a parent's arsenal to say, okay, these are the rules of the road. I'm not saying everyone's a great parent, I'm just saying, as a mom, I think it's great, because it's something I will review with my kids, but it gives another positive tool for parents to use within the community.
Is there,
room for improvement? Absolutely. But it's a good starting point, so.
when the class comes up in the schools, is there gonna be documentation that goes home to notify parents ahead of the class or after the class, or
You know,
both or neither?
I'll work with Harney and Ben on that for how we do things. I don't know, but it's a good idea. I'll
I know that
pass it on.
part of the root cause here is, like we talked about, a bunch of parents went out and bought these things as expensive Christmas gifts and then didn't lay out any rules and said, go have fun.
You say
They need to
expensive.
They need to be educated too, is my point.
We saw a picture of one over at Briar Hill 3 weeks ago, and if you look it up on the internet, it's like 4,700. I mean, it was absolutely insane.
The electric bikes.
That's what it was. Electric bike.
there,
It looked like,
yeah.
it looked like, I'd love to have that right now as an adult. It's cool as hell. As cool as a Harley, but it's close.
No, my point obviously is there are parents out there that need to be educated.
I think it's a great idea. I'll take it to Harney and say, hey, let's make sure they know that this week they're doing training. Like we do an education program, the parents should know that their kids are in Let's right now and what they're learning and where they're at. And I think that certificates for accomplishment for the training course is a big deal to hand to the kids, just like we give them to Let's. You graduated from the scooter course. We want them to remember, not just make it I had to sit through scooter class,
Referencing I apologize, I don't have it printed, I should have printed it out, be better prepared next time.
But hopefully there's not a next time.
Referencing the police department and their use of these types of devices on the trails and sidewalks. There was a segment in there that said that
We're exempt when we're on duty.
that was gonna be the question. It's specifically in the official function of duties.
Correct.
Yes.
Otherwise, if they're just
Seems our
monitoring,
fault.
they've gotta follow the rules unless they're in pursuit of somebody to stop them.
Well, if they're on duty, it's our official duty, so if we're I could have somebody who's in plain clothes, so that's why it's written in official capacity. So.
Right.
If
But
they're on
you're
duty
in
to be
official
paid by
capacity
me,
and
or
you're
the
on a
city.
bicycle on the trail and you pass somebody without notifying them as you come up behind them. Yes, I know you're in your official capacity, but courtesy would dictate that they would notify the person walking that they're behind them on a bicycle. Just like we have to do if we're on a bicycle.
There's the exemptions in there for exemption purposes. So if you're on a radio talking and someone's here and you're chasing after somebody and you're not able to give that,
Yeah, I understand that part.
there's that exemption. But they're gonna follow the rule. They're not exempt from just blatantly
Disregarding it.
correct.
That's where I'm,
They're exempt under certain situations.
thank you.
Does anybody have any suggested revisions? I don't.
I don't. I left it up to the committee to take care of that.
Working group.
Working group.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, next up is a presentation and discussion on House Bill 157 that was passed during the 2015 legislative session relating to restructuring or reallocation of dedicated sales tax, and that'll be Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, looks like Ken's gonna switch that over for me here real quick. And while that's coming up, this was an item that was requested to be on a work session. And House Bill 157 was some legislation that really clarified and changed some ways that you can work with your 4A and your 4B sales tax. So House Bill 157, let me go back here. This was done in the 2015 legislative session, so it has been around since that time. It amended various chapters of the local government code and the tax code, and it provides tax rates for sales and use taxes imposed by municipalities could be adopted in any increment of 1/8 of 1%, provided the combined rate is not in excess of a maximum combined 2%. So we think about our 4A sales tax for economic development and other purposes, 4B for economic development, parks, crime control districts, there's just a whole lot. Cities do have a maximum combined 2%. The 1% generally goes to the general fund as one of our bigger revenue sources. And then you can adopt others beyond that. Now, of course, we also have a half cent that goes to DCTA, and we've got our 4B. So one thing that can be done, those tax rates can be reduced or increased to any rate that is an increment of 1/8 of 1% that would not result in a combined rate that exceeds a maximum combined rate. So essentially, if you had a 4A and a 4B, if you decided they were both at a half cent, you could change that allocation, or you could include a new one under that. And again, House Bill 157, that kind of clarified the incremental amounts. And some certain uses had caps on them, and that was removed as well. So if you were to do that, you would do a combined sales tax proposition. So a municipality would have a combined ballot proposition to lower or repeal any municipal sales tax, and by the same proposition, raise or adopt any other municipal tax. So you'd have that on one ballot to approve the raising of one tax and the lowering of another. Now, if there's a negative vote, the one you already have in place, it doesn't do anything to change that. The whole thing would just simply fail, and then you continue on as you were. So again, we have the 4B sales tax, and that's a Highland Village Community Development Corporation. That was adopted in 2004, and a half cent sales tax goes to that. And the way the ballot was written, that revenue can only be applied to the city trail system and the soccer complex at DoubleTree Ranch Park. And this is our current sales tax budget. Ken estimated sales tax revenue to be $1.8 million for FY 2024. The other revenue there is rental fees at DoubleTree Ranch Park. Expenditures for operations is $990,000. That's for the employees that we pay out of that fund to do the work on those fields and other things, plus maintenance and equipment and things like that. We also have debt service that was issued, and that will be paid in 2034. So that gives us a net increase of about $463,000 this coming year. So as balances have been restored, and it finally has built up again, it's projected to be $1.6 million at the end of this fiscal year. There's actually capacity if we wanted to do a future debt issuance for trail system priorities. And with the net increase that we have, that could provide for about $5 to $6 million in bonds for projects. Now, if we did decide to raise one and lower another one, here's some different scenarios. That first column, that is as we are today. The general fund gets a penny, 4B gets a half cent, and so the total is 1.5 cents. Again, that other half cent goes to DCTA. So the current in the general fund, we're estimating $3.7 million in revenue this year. 4B, 1.8. for a total of 5.6 million. Now, that next column, the 4B quarter cent, is if you wanted to change that allocation. The general fund, again, would continue with the full penny at 3.7. 4B, you could cut that in half and put it into another one, and that'd be about $933,000 for each one of those. On the last two columns, that would be if you did a 3/8 cent and a 1/8 cent. So if you kept the 3/8 with the 4B, that would give you about $1.4 million in revenue. And for whatever other category there would be, that would be about $466,000. So really where we are right now in the life of the 4B, if we did reduce the 4B, for instance, to 1.25%, that would require us to make cuts of about $500,000, or we'd have to pick that up from the general fund or somewhere else. Reducing to 3/8% would result in the ability to only maintain the current system and really couldn't look at any future enhancements going forward. And the reallocation from 4B to another sales tax use would not increase funding. It just kind of reallocates that money and takes it from one place and moves it to another. There could very well come a time in our future when the trail system is substantially complete, maybe sales tax is doing well, that a reallocation scenario could possibly make sense to look at another use. Now, talking about DCTA, again, there's a half-cent sales tax is committed to DCTA. The city, we cannot vote to decrease that amount. Only the DCTA Board of Directors have that authority. And the way the Transportation Code is written, the Board of Directors by order may direct the Comptroller of Public Accounts to collect the authority's sales and use tax at a rate that is lower than the rate approved by the voters at the confirmation hearing, which would have been that original election, if the Board of Directors determines that is in the best interest of the authority. How that determination would be made, I don't know. But that very quickly, in a nutshell, is 157 and how you can do the reallocation of our sales tax. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So when the 4B was adopted in 2004, it was adopted for I don't know if you can go back to that slide. It said it was for the Parks and Trails and then soccer complex.
Trails and soccer complex, yes.
Just
So
very
Doubletree Ranch didn't exist in 2004, so was that something that was added later,
No, it was for soccer facilities wherever they were.
wherever they were? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So facilities was one, I don't know.
And then to put a bow on your discussion about the different scenarios, if we did something that took money away from the 4B, then basically, as an example, what's laid out in the comp plan for the trails and mobility plan for the future of 407, that would be out of the question.
For the Village Connector on 407, for the overall hike and bike trail master plan, yeah, that'd be very difficult to do anything. And of course, the one thing we do hope is when we do those kind of bond issues, we can find some grants out there to really parlay that money into a little bit more as well.
Is the 4B tax always renewed, or does it have a lifespan? Does it have to be revoted on?
Yeah, 4B is a little bit different. Some of the others, there's a street maintenance tax, the crime control district. There are certain parameters on those where they have to be renewed. But the 4B, as long as there's outstanding debt, Kevin, that you can continue and.
It doesn't expire unless it's repealed by a vote, by a citizen vote.
At another city I was in, actually there, the fund finally got to the point that the original projects were taken care of, the operating cost was taken care of, and it was able to expand to other uses. So, and that is a possibility in the future.
Yeah, that
That it could be there.
Yeah, and that's right. And I've noticed, we've had several cities that had a limited 4B tax, something similar to what Highland Village has, and they've gone back, and once they've reached the point where all those parks type projects were used, went ahead and had an election to expand the allowable projects, and which can, 4B projects, the whole expanse can include not only 4B projects, but also 4A projects. Because anything a 4A can do, 4B can do.
questions?
So this, ideally, this wouldn't be touched for another 20 years before we would start considering maybe 15.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Assuming
if I
what
can
we
put
have left
put a
of it.
time frame on that, really would
Yeah.
depend on, of course, what the future of sales tax is, how aggressive we are on future projects, but it would be years and years away, I think.
In master plan, we have a big list of trails that have been identified that we want to do. So unless we choose to abandon that, we would be on the right track.
And then just to clarify on the DCTA one. It wouldn't matter what residents said about their like or dislike of DCTA, we couldn't reallocate that money unless the DCTA board voted to reallocate the money. Is that wholly separate from if residents said, we just want out of DCTA?
We've gone down that path, you know.
So what I'm saying is, are the two issues mutually exclusive?
Well,
Matters.
the we want out of DCTA is until there's a legislative change in chapter
Right.
460 is not even a,
And that's where I'm going, is if there were, hypothetically, if there were a change,
now, if there were a change, it's a different deal.
these are you're still talking two completely separate issues though, because we could say they could change the code, we could say we want out, but the sales tax,
Yeah, they're
Board of
two
Directors should
separate,
still
so you'd have to have separate elections on each. I mean, you don't,
but what this says is that the board of directors would decide whether or not we continue to pay the tax.
Two different things, though.
Or they could decrease.
they can decrease the tax, yes.
Let's see, we've talked over the last couple of years, how could we recover some of those funds? Finding this, there is a way that it can come down. And I've had discussions with one board member and with two board members that, a way to give money back to us is decrease it. You could get Frisco to come in without doing a bond election because all they gotta do is fund. Okay, people don't want to do an election, throw another half cent of sales tax. Okay? So there's ways they might leverage lowering tax and bring money in from Flower Mound who wants to get some support, bring it in from other cities. So there's a way to do that. Now, flip side of it is a quarter-cent reduction for us is X dollars, 900,000. A quarter-cent for Louisville would be 10 times that. Okay, so TJ wants to see some money back in his pocket, because he's not gonna lower anything unless he can lower his expense. But there is a mechanism. So I think, future board at DCTA should look at that and leverage that, because we need Flower Mound in, we need Frisco in, we need Corinth in. People that are gonna get benefits, but let's find a way for them to pay, then offset us. And that can be done without a legislative change.
Or you do a two-prong approach, start hitting up our local legislators as well as looking at the DCTA board to go ahead and start reducing that way. So if
I think if
we're-
anything's become clear in the last couple of sessions, our legislators don't listen to what we want to do anyway, so.
I assume that if we were able to get a reduction in the amount that we pay, that it would go to the voters for crime prevention districts or fire control districts, correct?
Really be up to the council what you wanted to do. Yeah, there's a whole long list of various.
You could reduce it without adding something too.
Right.
But I think we have areas that we could add it to.
Yes.
I mean, you got 4B. We got this huge, state of the
They don't have a
art
pickleball
kickball
tax
facility
here.
on the book. So I think, you got 4B going to parks, if we could take some of, the extra half cent and give it to the other departments.
So you're willing to give up the future parks and trails system that
Nope.
we've got allocated in the,
Absolutely not reducing 4B. Taking a portion of the DCTA and allocating it to fire prevention and crime prevention.
we don't have, like I said, we don't have any control over that. That's the
Well,
board's
that's what I'm
budget.
saying, we get DCTA to,
Gotta get the board to look at it.
gotta get the board to look at it. I mean, we're paying $2 million a year for a mass transit experiment for the past 20 years. And how have we suffered?
And how to get any communities to get into it, they have to pay back 20 years. They had to go back in the Wayback Machine, 20 years, and then
I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that some, not all, I agree, a minority of our citizens, though, has benefited from the DCTA in multiple ways, so I think we have to keep that in view.
I agree.
100%.
But that's about $500,000 worth of benefit, and we're paying $2 million. According to DCTA's own numbers, we get about $500,000 worth of our money, and we pay $2 million in. So that's the trade-off, is Flower Mound was given a proposal for the same exact service, larger area thing, for the Go Zone, for $700,000. And we're paying $2 million.
Flower
The
Mound.
train station and the
That's right.
information that Paul sent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Is the authority classified as all three cities combined? Is that
All
the,
three, it's all three cities
Yeah, that
and,
is-
and the
And
county.
Well,
County.
well,
County.
Yes.
It's, well, that's the board makeup. It's a countywide authority.
Okay.
Okay,
It's own independent.
but with the 5 voting members being one for each of the 3 sales tax collecting cities, and then 2 county commissioner appointed members who are from, generally going to be from unincorporated areas.
So I guess my question would be, if by some miracle, the board of directors were to see what some people would want them to see and reduce what we're paying in lieu of Frisco buying their way in and/or Corinth buying their way in, would that require them to reconstitute or reallocate voting power on the board?
I'd have to take a look
Because I
at that.
can't imagine
but I don't-
Frisco and Corinth would want to come in.
There is, as I
Without some
recall, I
vote.
think if there is, because there's this mechanism in chapter 460 that, and it's not necessarily, chapter 460 does not necessarily require a buy-in. The board still has the authority to kind of determine what those terms are going to be through some kind of agreement. It does provide for, though, what effectively is a TERS type financing or tax increment financing to pay into their, in lieu of the sales tax. Because most all these other cities are currently already sales tax capped. Because most of them already have both 4A and 4B, that are collecting half cents. So that sucks up their full 1 cent additional money. So because of that, not with the last iteration, but several legislation sessions before that, they came up with this tax increment type of financing to bring in additional members. Of course, nobody's taken them up on it yet.
But, and like I said, I can't
But-
imagine somebody would want to spend money
Yeah.
to get into the game and not have some kind of authority on the board.
I don't think
Right, and
anybody
as I
will-
recall, I think there is a mechanism within chapter 460 that would provide for that.
According to DCTA, and talking with them, it has to be the equivalent of whatever their half cent sales tax would be. So they can fund it however they want, but they suppose, according to them,
But you're talking about money, I'm talking about votes on the board.
that's what I'm saying.
And
To
that
get a
buy-
vote on
that
the
buys them-
board,
That buys them
You
their,
have to have the equivalent of a half cent sales tax. So if you generated half cent $1 million, then somehow you're paying that $1 million in. It might not be through a sales tax, it might be through a TERS or a PID or whatever.
So you get 1 member on the board?
You get, yes, they get a
which
voting,
weakens Louisville, Denton, and Howland Village's vote on the board.
well, no one's come on in 20 years, but yes, it does.
I could see that member cities may have a problem with that.
And those cities will also have an out.
Well, they would. Well, I mean, they'd get a contract. They'd have to sign a contract to get in.
Right. They're not gonna be tied up in legislation that won't let them out.
And one thing that doesn't come in is whether the board could say, Highland Village, we're gonna reduce your sales tax. Louisville, we're not. Whether the board would have the discretion, okay, to be more of an equitable
I think they do have the
fee for
discretion.
service. If they do, again, I think our board members should look at that as a way to make everyone a little happier and also bring in Flower Mound. And, I mean, I think there's ways to do it without legislative. And 2 years ago, we didn't see a way. At least now there's a glimmer of a way.
What you just said is true. If they lower us from our half cent, then we would lose our board position. Right.
Does that
I mean,
board
we-
position
That's a
matter?
different,
Well,
yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean,
I mean, we're putting
from
in
what I heard,
1.9
you have to
million.
be at a half per, or,
Yeah.
half right, to be on the board?
Don't know. I mean, that's,
We'll get that up. I mean, I guarantee we get outvoted. Just be,
Yeah.
by the fact that we
It may
don't have
not matter.
stations, we don't have.
as long as we can get our go zone, which is what we use more than anything else.
Goes on,
That's all we use.
113 registered users.
That's it.
I mean, that's what we use.
Right.
Now, if we open up to the 2499 corridor, I think we'll probably double our usage.
Flower Mound's on the other side of that corridor.
Right, well, no, but our people want to go there, so
You can't go there until they
open it up.
open up, and I don't see them.
Okay.
Plus you've got the competing other transit people that are poking into the Tarrant people.
Good, thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank
Anything
you.
else, everybody? Moving on to number 3, clarification of consent or action items listed on today's agenda. Does anybody have any questions or any clarification or anything? The whopping,
Consent agenda.
yeah.
I do have a question for Kim on number 12, resolution authorizing the purchase of the ambulance. Wasn't that, I thought we put all of our vehicles in the lease program.
No, just there's a number of pieces of equipment that were not included. Some of our bigger trucks, dump trucks, and then our public safety or engines and ambulances, you're not.
Enterprise doesn't rent those.
Pardon?
Enterprise doesn't rent those.
It's mostly you're just our, well, what we call white fleet, our all-purpose trucks and all that, especially vehicles.
Because the leasing service doesn't offer those. Right. All right. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, then, we can close early work session at 6:46.
So just, wait, did I just combobulated so? Is that, wait,
I thought I turned it on.
I brought one.
That is yours, that's
Okay.
yours,
Is
yes.
this old, like
No, that's the new ones.
this? Okay, I don't need that. I can drink a bottle of water.
Good evening, and welcome to the regular session of the Highland Village City Council. Today is Tuesday, October the 10th, and the meeting's called to order at 7 p.m. Let the record show all council members are present. And please join Councilmember Feaster in leading the prayer and pledge.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us on this day and for all days. We thank you for allowing us to know the love of our families, our friends, and our neighbors. As we gather here tonight, we pray for your wisdom and guidance as we consider this evening's agenda. We ask that you guide us and help us continue to serve in good faith towards each other and represent the best of our community. We ask that you continue to watch over our city staff, our first responders, and see them safely home to their families at the end of their day. We pray you watch over and protect our military personnel at home and abroad and keep them safe as they serve to protect us. And lastly, we pray that you protect and comfort the innocent victims and their families across this beautiful world as we struggle to overcome these troubled times. In your most blessed name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks, sir.
Where I get the hard reviews.
Next thing we'll move on to is mayor and council reports on items of community interest pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415. City council may report on the following items: expression of thanks, congratulations, or condolences, information about holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, reminders about upcoming city council events, and information about community events and announcements involving imminent threat to public health and safety. Does anybody have anything they want to report? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to remind everybody that October 16th is the Park and Rec Board at 6 p.m. and October 17th is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? I think we've got a couple other things that'll be covered in the village report coming up in a little bit. The video village report. After that, last call before I do a proclamation. Yes, sir? Okay, so I'm gonna do a proclamation and then we'll get into city manager and staff reports and the village report. There's an inside joke on the village report.
Not an inside joke if you gotta explain it.
Chief, you wanna meet me? I'll give you that copy. Oh, look at y'all popping tall. Y'all want to come up? Come on up.
My goodness.
Come on.
Great photo op.
So before I read this, I just want to thank you again, Cap. I got to have dinner with his shift. Was it last week or week before?
I think it was week before.
Yeah, week before? Yeah, great dinner. They're good cooks. The meatloaf, which I never eat meatloaf, the meatloaf was really good. I hope Gretchen's not watching because then she'll get mad at me. But yeah, thank y'all, thank y'all. Oh, so okay, proclamations for Fire Prevention Month. Whereas the City of Highland Village is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk of fire, and whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, and whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves, and children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking, and whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half, now therefore I, Daniel Jaworski, Mayor of the City of Highland Village, do hereby proclaim October as Fire Prevention Month in the City of Highland Village. Chief, podium's yours. And do we want to do picture first? Want to do picture first? Okay, come on guys, get comfortable. We had dinner together, we shouldn't have been.
He did that on purpose.
All right, perfect, thank you.
All right, it's yours. Y'all can go sit down if you want to.
Just like to remind all our citizens, obviously October is started out actually Fire Prevention Week, which was the week which included October 10th, but now it's kind of gone into Fire Prevention Month. But remind all our citizens that if you haven't changed your batteries this year, change them before they wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning chirping. And remember that smoke detectors have a life. So about 10 years, and they start faults going off, so they get dirty, and so they should be replaced every 10 years. And if you have gas in your house, natural gas, make sure you have a carbon monoxide detector. So that's all we have, and thank you, Council, Mayor.
Thanks, sir.
Chief.
And I did have one other thing I wanted to add as an announcement. In addition to being Fire Prevention Month, October is also Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so what I like to remind people is as you're going through changing your smoke detector batteries, change your passwords on all your accounts too. If you do that, just like you change your clocks or change your smoke alarm batteries, you'll probably be in pretty good cybersecurity safety. So moving on, Mayor, City Manager and staff reports and village report. We'll move on to Mr. Stevens. Do you have anything like a village report?
First off, I've got to think of a different password than 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Try password
Yeah.
with the capital
There you
P.
go. Yeah. That's a good idea. Appreciate that. Mayor, I do have a couple of things. First, we started our new service with Republic Services last week. Overall, the transition went smoothly. Trash and recycling carts were delivered to all the residents when the new service began. Most everybody did everything right and deployed the carts properly. If you do have your old personal bins and you still want to get used to it, you can leave it out, leave it empty, lay it on its side, and it'll be picked up with bulk trash. I do want to thank all our city staff, specifically the Public Works crew, for picking up the old waste management and CWD carts that were missed, as well as organizing all the carts at the staging area, and all the employees who took phone calls from residents to answer the questions and help resolve any issues. And thank you especially to the public for being patient during this time. It is a difficult transition, but I think everybody made it through very well. If you haven't registered already, this Thursday is the HVBA Community Coffee here at City Hall, and it begins at 8 o'clock. We will be presenting the New Way Insight residential survey regarding local businesses. And if you do want RSVP, go to hvba@highlandvillage.org. November 10th, we will be having our Salute Our Veterans Luncheon, and this is a great event, and we really count on the public to help sponsor the veterans. And if you're interested in sponsoring the luncheon for some veterans, go to www.thehvba.com/veterans to do that. And then our Texas Fallen PD Tribute is coming up on October 22nd. This is the 15th annual event honoring the Texas peace officers who died in the line of duty in 2022. You can purchase memorial T-shirts here with all the proceeds going directly to the Fallen Officer Fund. Short sleeve shirts are $25 and long sleeves are $35. Also, Awesome Times is hosting a Spirit Day on Thursday, October 12th, and 10% of their sales will be going to the fund. And we'll have more details in the upcoming village report.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we can play the village report.
A 5K, bike ride, kid ride with a cop, kid zone, food trucks, and a concert in the park from Emerald City Party Machine is what's happening in Highland Village on October 21st. Join us for our annual TX Fallen PD tribute event at Doubletree Ranch Park and show your support for fallen police officers and their families in the state of Texas. Located in southern Denton County, Highland Village is a beautiful community with parks, trails, and many amenities. Whether you run, walk, ride, or cheer on the participants, you will have a great time. Register to participate in the 5K run walk in the morning and the bike honor ride in the evening, and your entry fee supports the families of fallen Texas peace officers. To honor our heroes and for more details, go to txfallenpd.com. See you there.
New and now open in Highland Village.
Hi y'all, I'd like to welcome you to the Great American Cookies here at the Shops of Highland Village. My name is Robin Johnson and I'm the shop owner. Great American Cookies has been around for close to 50 years. We specialize in the large cookie cakes for all occasions. We have like about 13 different flavors featured at all times. And now that it's seasonal, we do have our pumpkin spice gingerbread will be coming soon. We also would like to feature our bluebell ice cream sandwiches, and those are fantastic. We would love for you to come visit. We'd love to meet you all and help you make your event special.
Now cut that ribbon.
right. So we're moving on to item number 10, visitor comments, where anyone wishing to address the city council must complete a speaker's request form and return it to the city secretary. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, city council is restricted in discussing or taking action on items not posted on the agenda. Action on your statement can only be taken at a future meeting. In order to expedite the flow of business and to provide all visitors the opportunity to speak, the mayor may impose a 3-minute limitation on any person addressing the city council, and a 30-minute time allotment is set for this section. Ms. Miller, anybody sign up to speak? All right, moving on to consent. All items on the consent agenda are considered for approval by a single motion and vote without discussion. Each council member has the option of removing an item from this agenda so that it may be considered separately, and or adding any item from the action agenda to be considered as part of the consent agenda items. Items on consent are number 11, consider approval of the minutes of the regular city council meetings held on August 22nd, 2023 and September 12th, 2023. Consider Resolution 2023-3094, authorizing purchase of a 2024 F-550 Horton Type 1 ambulance from Southern Emergency and Rescue Vehicle Sales through the city's cooperative purchasing agreement with Interlocal Government Purchasing Cooperative, or BUY Board. Item number 13, consider Resolution 2023-3095, nominating a person for appointment to the Denton Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. Item number 14, consider Resolution 2023-3096, authorizing purchase of excavation equipment from Vermeer, Texas, Louisiana, and turf equipment from Professional Turf Products through the city's cooperative purchasing agreement with Local Government Purchasing Cooperative, or BUY Board, and then receive budget reports for period ending August 31st, 2023. Is there any discussion needed for any of the agenda items included on consent? Would anybody like to make a motion? Mr. Feaster?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that we approve items 11 through 15 on the consent agenda.
All right, a motion to approve by Mr. Feaster. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nelson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to action, we did not meet in closed session, so there's nothing to do there. Item number 17, conduct annual review of the city's investment policy and consider Resolution 2023-3097, readopting the city's investment policy with any amendments thereto. Mr. Herman.
Mayor, Council, public entities in Texas are governed by the Public Funds Investment Act in terms of how we invest our resources, and it's very comprehensive and pretty restrictive too as well with that. And one of the requirements is that we have an investment policy, which we've had in place for a number of years, and that we actually have an annual review each year to ensure that it complies with the Public Funds Investment Act, and to make sure we keep it up to date. For this year, there were no legislative changes to that, but reading through it, we always find little things that we want to tweak or update or make a little bit better, and we found just a couple little minor changes to make. And one was just basically designate one of our investment folks to have the right title, updated title for that. And then the other is for our investments that require collateral. We currently require 102% of pledged securities for that collateralization. We wanted to update that to also include projected interest along with that, just to be extra safe. And so not only do we go more above the 100% just to allow for fluctuation in the market, but we have the 2% additional, and also include projected interest just to make sure we protect ourselves with that. But those were the only things that we actually, small changes to make to it. Otherwise, it's intact and good to go.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion. Don't everybody jump at once.
We don't need to make a motion.
Oh, we don't?
We do?
Yep.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve Resolution 2023-3097.
Mr. Feaster with a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fiorenza. Any last chance for discussion? Anybody? So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. That takes care of our action agenda. Moving on to late work session. Does anyone have any reports or future agenda items they want to discuss? Last call. Nope. All right, we are adjourned at 7:17.